Out of the gate, JT, we're rolling today. I just watched the best soccer game I've ever watched, at least the second half. Messi, Argentina. That's what you look like when you got guys who know how to play and how to score goals. What a comeback. What a game for the ages on American soil in Atlanta, which is making this World Cup exceptional. No matter what, USA knocked out. Forget about it. Turn on the real teams, the real good teams, they're playing. And that was one hell of a show. Holy crap, was that a great game. Messi, incredible. You better believe it. Jump on in. We're live on YouTube at JT the Brick. Sign up for free. We're giving away some cool stuff starting this summer at training camp. I am taking in gear to give away. We'll have an announcement on that. We got new partners, some of their gear to give away. Some of our old-time subscribers, you'll get yours. You've been around me for a while. The new ones, we got some things coming up for you, which we're excited about. Ari in for Clay as we continue along this summer. I got a lot to say. Vinny Bonsignore in 15 minutes. Vinny B, our insider for the NFL, not just the Raiders. I don't even think I'm going to ask him a Raider question. Sorry, I don't think I am. I'm going to ask about Brandon Ayuk and some other storylines, so I'll get to that. But there is some Raider news out there, really just Raider rumors. That's what's interesting this time of year. Raider rumors. Will Max get traded? Oh, give me a break. Will Fernando start? Give me a break. You know, a lot of these rumors going on. Oh, my God, will JPJ be pushed to start and all of that stuff? We don't have to go there. It's low-hanging fruit, and it won't be important when we're playing that game against Miami. I want to build the show this summer with Raider memories by talking to alumni. Steve Wisniewski has agreed to join us coming up here. Frank Hawkins. Wow, what a Super Bowl he had, as I'm reaching out to alumni of the Raiders asking for their signature moment of their career. We've already had Rod Woodson, Phil Villapiano. By the time the summer's done, I'm hoping to have 10 to 15 alumni, and that'll be our summer series that we do here every year. But I want to begin with our proud partner, Modelo Soccer Season World Cup, the fighting spirit of Modelo, as they kick off the show. Let me give you a recap of American soccer in 10 minutes. This is where American soccer was and where American soccer is going in 10 minutes. So here I go. First off, our men's soccer team normally sucks. Throughout our entire life, they're no good. They're not competitive. They don't play in big leagues. We don't have many stars. We don't have recognizable names. We're not very good. That has recently changed. We have some players who are pretty good. Balogun's good. Pulisic didn't show up. But we got a couple of midfielders and players that are good that I think we should keep moving on. The rest of them, wipe them out. I don't want to see them in a World Cup again. Most of that roster, I do not want to see again. They're not good enough. So as I was debating this last night on Mad Dog Sports Radio and the phones were just lit up and everybody was talking about it, everybody comes up with the same discussion every 4 years, which I have a PhD on. I have a PhD. How come we can't develop young soccer players? Would you like to go there first? Let's get that out of the way. First off, our young boys, not girls. The girls are great. The girls are able to go on and play in college, and college matters. If you play college soccer at Indiana or Cal or Stanford or in North Carolina, you can go and make the women's national team and win the World Cup. You can't do that in America. We have to develop young boys between the ages of 8 and 15 years old and do one of two things. With their parental supervision, we have to ship them overseas to go play at the great academies in Europe. We got to get them out of the United States, get them out of here. Okay, our soccer culture is based on juice boxes, having 19 games going on at your local field, and none of it matters. The ball just gets kicked out of bounds, and moms walk around talking to other moms with red Solo cups, and they make plans for the beach. We are not a soccer culture because our kids are signing up to play soccer. Okay, most of our kids who really want to play sports are signed up for Little League and Pop Warner, where you're out to tackle, and they play youth basketball in gyms with other kids who foul them, and they play those sports, and they don't play soccer. Soccer is a throwaway sport, but not for the girls. The young girls, put them on every soccer field out there. A couple of them are going to be great. But the boys, we got to do another thing. Here's the other thing. If we don't send them overseas at 12 years old, we need some trillionaire or billionaire to build a soccer academy outside of Atlanta, outside of Columbus, somewhere up near the farm in Stanford. Got to build a multi-$100 million soccer academy where we take the best young boys in America and we don't let them play in their park. We don't let them play in the suburbs. We rip them out of there because, man, that 11-year-old looks like a young Dennis Rodman. He might be able to play defense. Oh, that other boy who can dribble the ball and do all that, he looks like a young Messi. Get him out of that league and shoot him to our soccer academy and develop him. And then we can hire coaches from Europe. We can overpay them like we do in America. We can overpay them like we pay for engineers from China to work at these tech companies or mathematicians who come over from Pakistan or whatever. We can overpay them and put them here, and we can develop them. That's how you fix this. Someone give me an award for that 5 minutes. That is how you fix soccer by JT the Brick, who never played the game but has been talking about it. It doesn't work. We suck at it. Our leagues stink. The MLS is weak. We had a goalie last night playing in Seattle who was a minor league goalie for 4 years in the MLS. And then he played for the New York, what are they, the Red Bull? What's their team again? They changed it. It's not the Cosmos and the Red Bull, right? We changed them out. We had a goalie who plays in the MLS. Oh, my God. Really? We need a goalie who plays in the Premier League or La Liga or the Bundesliga. We need a goalie who knows what it's like to be sitting there as flares are going off in the middle of a soccer game and there's a riot in the upper deck and the police are coming in on horses because everybody is afraid to leave the stadium. We need a goalie who's been under that type of pressure. Oh, that goalie was awful. Oh, my God. He got sacked by the turf monster. He stops a ball with his chest. He tries to settle it, goes to kick it, and he puts his cleat into the grass. And you want us to win and beat Belgium? You got to be kidding me. Man, we vomited all over ourselves in Seattle at Seattle Stadium. Oh, my God. What a waste that was. I hope you didn't pay $1,400 a ticket for that disgrace unless you were from Belgium. And then you got your money's worth. The president overturning the red card had nothing to do with the game. It had everything to do with the fans around the world who are rooting against us, and that didn't affect the game. We're just terrible. We got guys who can't even defend a cross into the box. We got the captain of our soccer team, the captain of our men's soccer team, wearing a man bun and getting dunked on as a 6'4" Belgium superstar, heads it in over him, and he's planted on the ground like he was just dunked on by Shaquille O'Neal. Fact, not fiction. Crowd was into it. Crowd wanted to win. Good energy. I get all that. Now, here's the positives, because not everything's negative. The positives are this. It's a great World Cup. The United States helped with that. They won games and they got to the knockout round of 16. So the United States, their coach, they deserve credit for that. They didn't advance. Either does Mexico, and Mexico never advances either. Mexico never advances. Okay, so the America and Mexico, go play in your little Copa stuff. Go play in your Copa tournaments and go tell each other how great you are when you beat each other in Copa. Like I give a crap about that. Okay, so they can go fight against each other in Copa and tell us how great they are. That's like an upgrade from the MLS to me. We need to play with better players who have international experience. That's it. But the problem everybody has now is we're trying to say, how do we get the young kids to get the international experience? David Beckham was discovered at 11 years old. He moved out from his parents. Watch the documentary. He moved out from his parents. He was living with Manchester United as a little boy. Right, Messi and everything he was able to do. So that's what you got to do. You got to find the young boys who are young enough and good enough, develop them, and then ship them off so they can be young men. Ship them off to Europe. Let them be in Europe. Let them have a good time there. Their parents should be there to supervise. Pay them. Give them some money. Give them some college money, whatever you have to do. But our system does not work. Notice I didn't say the United States soccer system is broken. I didn't say it's broken. We don't have a system here. It doesn't work. You can put me in charge, me. You can put me on the board of USA men's soccer. I just sit in the corner of the boardroom. And when they come around to me, the last 10 minutes I just said is better than anything that went on in the meeting. I'll tell you everything you need to do to make it right. But for whatever reason, they want to do it the American way. They want to do it their way. They want to develop players their way. And it doesn't work. Follow, just copy. Did you ever cheat in high school or elementary school on a big test? I don't encourage it. But if your back's up against the wall and you got to pass a class and you look over to the left and you see the hot girl's got all the right answers and she gives you them, you take it and you survive, right? Well, all we got to do is copy Europe. So, JT, our kids don't grow up. Our kids have more money. They're not poor. You know how many people say the disgusting term of, these kids grow up with nothing, no shoes, no nets. They just have a ball, and they're developed into being great players because they have nothing in life. How would you like to hear that as a kid? Messi and Ronaldo, who make more than LeBron and Tom Brady combined. How would you like to go up to their parents and say, what was it like to have these kids grow up dirt poor, where they had nothing but a ball and a wall in the backyard, and now they're the richest athletes in the world? We have everything in this country. We have no excuse. We have rockets that go up in the air and then come back and land identically where they're supposed to be. We have the smartest tech in the world, the smartest businesses and banks, unbelievable education. We got everything you want in this country, and we can't develop a soccer team. So go copy Europe. Go cheat on the test. Go figure it out. So I'd like your opinion throughout the broadcast on how you think this could be turned around. How do you think it could be turned around? I think I know your answer, but you might know something better than I know. You might know something better. But I've been doing this for 30 years, which is 6 World Cups I've been on the radio for, and I haven't been like some of these frauds in the media who are gone on purpose because they can't talk about it. I am right in the belly of the beast. I got over 100,000 views, not that I'm counting, my kids are, on talking about how overrated I thought Mexico was with Azteca. Of course, they've won a couple of big games over the history of the ballpark, the stadium, I get that. But overall, when you play weaker opponents traditionally, when your typical league where you play is inferior to Europe and the rest of the world, don't expect to win. Hope to win, but don't expect to win. So the problem is now for American soccer, we have two different types of fans. We have the fans that are going to say, thank you, America, thank you. We appreciate it, man. We had a good time. I went to the World Cup a week ago Sunday. I got the gear. I got the hat. Sports bars were rocking. All got a chance to barbecue in our backyard, watch soccer, be a patriot, love our country. That was great. We got to give America a lot of credit for that. And Fox, who made a lot of money off of that. And Fox was on their knees praying for Messi. Everyone on the Fox lot in L.A. was on their knees in prayer, hoping that Messi would come back. They didn't want to see Egypt. Fox doesn't want to broadcast an Egypt game, I can promise you. And Messi came through. So with all this in general, do what you want to do. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to watch the rest of the World Cup because the talent is better and the soccer is much better than the stuff we have in America or Mexico. Fact, not fiction. I'm going to hope that there's a classic finish to this and everybody says, remember the World Cup in 2026 in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. It was the best World Cup ever. We have a chance to do that here. And World Cups have had Maradona and Pele. So with all that being said, I hope the World Cup ends on a heroic note. And then I will wait for America to come back 4 years from now. Not next year. I will not contribute to the MLS. I will not be watching those little friendlies and those bogus matches that give us false hope. I will hope that we develop other great young talent that can play soccer around the world with some type of connection to America with their passport or visa, play for our country, and we get better players. And that's the monologue as we get going. Vinny Bonsignore, What a great insider he is on multiple sports from the California Post, kind enough to join us. Vinny, I mean, Italy hasn't even been to the World Cup in a while. Germany got knocked out before the United States. So is it glass half full or glass half empty for you with the World Cup?
Probably a little, glass half full. I mean, we'd be disingenuous to sit here and say we had major, expectations for this team. The United States exceeded expectations. We got our hopes up, or a lot of people got their hopes up, and now are extraordinarily disappointed and embarrassed because they didn't make it past the round of 16, even though nobody predicted they would even get to that, that far. So I don't know. I look at last night's game as, to me, Belgium is a blue blood. What they would be, LSU, right, in college football. To me, the United States right now is more like Baylor, TCU, maybe even Houston, University of Houston. They won a couple of games. They got our hopes up, and they got to a big stage. I don't think it was. They didn't care. They were embarrassed. They were listless. I felt like they didn't handle the bright lights, and the big stage well enough. And on top of that, they just weren't as good as the other team. Belgium has the better players and were better prepared to handle that moment, and the right team won last night. So that's how I look at it, and I think everyone's gonna. It feels like the Super Bowl sometimes to me. You know this better than I do. What's the average viewership for the Super Bowl?
120 million or 25 million in the United States. I don't know what the global audience is.
Okay, let's just say that. Let's just say that for the United States, over 100 million. What's your typical Monday Night Football, viewership?
Good question. I would not know the answer off the top of my head. I'd say about
probably. Go ahead.
I'd say about 18, 20 million, or is that too high? Yeah, something like that.
Let's just say that. Yeah, that there's a big disparity. Why? A lot of casual fans watch the Super Bowl, and then don't religiously watch, even though a whole lot of people do, obviously, right? And then a lot of people don't during the regular season. They're not caught up in the day-to-day, and that's fine. But come the Super Bowl, when it's a big spectacle, everybody's watching. So everybody was watching USA during these last few weeks. It helped that the timelines, were perfectly set up. This wasn't one of those situations where it's in Australia, so we have to wake up at 3 a.m. to watch the games, right? They were right in our time slots, and it was easy to watch. It was easy to consume. We all got behind it, but I would imagine that the hardcore fans, just like the hardcore NFL fans, will now stick it out and become fans of their Premier League team. Some of them will be MLS fans, et cetera, et cetera. And the majority of the fans that were watching will go back to their regularly scheduled lives, whether it's watching baseball or football or nothing at all, and go about their lives. I don't expect that there's going to be some carryover, like this is going to build something major, and all of a sudden America is going to be much more into soccer than they previously were. We've heard that song and dance how many times, JT? How many times in our lifetime, you and I, have we heard, this is the moment, this is the seminal moment, this is what's going to turn this all around? I will say this. Had Team USA won the event or got to the finals, that may have nudged it a little bit, like legitimately nudged it. But I think exceeding expectations, but falling out, before the real massive games start coming, I think soccer is going to be exactly where it was before this thing started, and will remain that way for forever, I think, in the United States. I don't ever see it challenging baseball or football or basketball.
Vinny Bonsignore, California Post. I've been dying to ask you about Kobe Bryant, because you covered a lot of his career, and you know that the influence that Kobe had as a young boy going to Europe and Italy and developing as a basketball player internationally, because his dad played internationally, but then he went from high school to the pros and had a pretty quick impact there. What do you think U.S. soccer needs to do to develop young Kobe Bryants to potentially build up to the national team? I think a lot of it has to do with sending these young players overseas and doing it in a smart way. How do you see it?
Well, I actually think it would take a total reversal of where youth sports are headed right now. Youth sports is for profit, JT. Let's make no bones about that. You know that. You had kids that played sports. I had kids that played sports. My niece was a high-level softball player who to this day, my brother cusses me out for getting her involved in that. It cost him a lot of money. with travel ball, with tournaments, with, when you want to be seen at that level, you have to be certain places, and it costs a lot of money. If you want to be a high-level soccer player, basketball player, football player in the United States, it costs a lot of money to do that. It just does, and we do it because we're backwards. We do it for there's private coaches, there's leagues, there's organizations that make money off of young sports and young athletes. Until we get that turned around and maybe adopt the European model, not to say that I don't know if America will ever do this, where in those countries they funnel their best players into those programs that you're talking about and support those kids. It's not the kids paying into the organization, it's the reverse of that happening. So if we were to ever mimic the European way or the way other countries do it, where it's not for profit and it's for literally development. We as a country and as let's just say a soccer body are going to identify at a very early age the best players, the best young promising players, and invest in them rather than them investing in the sport. Then I don't think that there's really, aside from some random, year where everything goes right, I don't see that we're ever going to get to a point where we're going to be able to compete at that level with the countries that do exactly that.
Vinny Bonsignore. Let's get to Brandon Ayuk. I know you've been reporting on this for the California Post. Look, I think he's having a mental breakdown. I saw Antonio Brown have a mental breakdown years ago in Napa, California, when he came to the Raiders and they really wanted him, and he was in the prime of his career. And I'm looking at Ayuk. It's probably the beginning of his prime. He's a really good route runner and a player with upside, and he's playing himself out of the league. Where does he stand overall with John Lynch of the Niners? Are there teams that are interested in him because they're going to have to do much more due diligence than expected?
Yeah, and right now, no. There wouldn't be much interest in him. He's really dug himself into a massive hole, and it's really all his doing. His actions have put him in this predicament. And I just wrote a column that's going to be coming out on the California Post about it's a tale as old as time. He can't look himself in the mirror and understand that he's been the issue here. He's blaming everybody else, his agent, the coach, the general manager, everybody, Jaden Daniels, the one guy that might have let him back into his huddle or welcomed him into his huddle. He completely humiliated on social media, and the Commanders were like, why would we want to bring that kind of a person into our building when he just dissed our quarterback that way? That's not going to happen. So I'm not saying that every door is closed off to Brandon Ayuk, but he needs to have a moment with himself where he's contrite and reflective. And I get it. Maybe he is dealing with some kind of a mental type of an issue going on. I have talked to some people who indicated to me that he's been a little bit of a problem going all the way back to college. So this isn't, bad behavior isn't unique to him in the eyes of some evaluators that are out there. So I think, short of a real mental situation going on, which I'm not going to deny that could be a possibility. At some point, if that's not it, I would lean more toward personal responsibility and accountability and understanding that the world's not stacked against you. You're throwing Shanahan and John Lynch under the bus. They were the same guys that gave you a 4-year, $120 million extension. Right? Wow. They just turned on a dime, or is that what you're telling us? That two people that gave you life-changing money, monopoly money that's going to be should have been, able to be generational for your family, and it was your actions that caused them to say, forget it, then we're not going to pay you, because there's some responsibility on you now that we've paid you. But you're telling me that they're the bad guys? Look yourself in the mirror, take some ownership for some of the decisions that you made, and it doesn't have to be the end of the line. If you can truly take accountability and say, hey, look, let's sit down and talk this out, because the first thing that needs to happen is he has to submit for reinstatement from the 49ers. And then when that happens, hey, report to training camp. If your knee is good, you'll be able to show that, and maybe they'll be able to trade you, or maybe they'll just, if you work with them a little bit, maybe they'll say, okay, it's not going to work here, but we will release you and you can move on to another team. But I had a general manager, I asked this question, hey, why don't the 49ers just release him? And the feedback that I got was, why would the 49ers reward bad behavior and bend their knee and give in to his whims just because he decided to bad behavior his way out of the situation that he created? That's not how life works. And so I think that they're going to continue to hold on to him and hope that maybe he comes to his senses and they can work something out that's mutually beneficial to them and him. But the first thing that has to happen is for him to be contrite and have some accountability and stop blaming everybody. And by the way, put your darn phone down. Stop filming yourself. Stop thinking that you got to put out to the world every thought that you have. That's ridiculous. You got to start acting. You keep saying, I'm a grown man. Well, start acting like a man and being responsible.
Last one for Vinny Bonsignore. He's going to play again. This is his livelihood. I think he'll come back. It'll be behind him at some point. He will apologize. The easiest thing to do for men in the world is to apologize. I do it 5 times a day before breakfast. Apologize to everybody. Get with the right people and do it. But the future team, normally the team that's going to want him is a bad team that needs a number 1 or a number 2 receiver, and they're desperate because the coaches are going to get fired if they don't win eventually, and you can help him, and he's that big of a weapon. Or you can cherry pick him for a discounted price and put him on a really good team as the 3rd wide receiver when minimum he should be the 2nd. Do you think an elite team might be just waiting back for him to recover here and get this right and be able to come back again, or will it probably be a bottom team that is desperate to improve their receiver room?
Yeah, whoever it is, to me, if I was running that team, I'm not going to risk adding him in middle of the season and risk him taking a turn for the bad and ruining everything that I've built, whether I'm a good team or a bad team, right? What I would do, and this is what he's cost himself, honestly. You know, had he just been contrite and worked with the 49ers, they probably would have released him or worked out some sort of a deal where he could get traded and, sign with a new contract. He's not going to make a lot of money. I mean, wherever he goes at this point, it's going to be for a league minimum. They're going to need to see him prove that they can rely on him before they give him any kind of serious money. And what he cost himself, I think, and what I think a team will want to do probably at some point next year, we'll see how it all plays out this year, but bring him into your building in January, February of next year, which is what should have happened this year. Let him go through an off-season program. Let him be around. Let him get to know people. Let you give yourself a chance to get to know him so that if you have any apprehensions that he's not serious, that he's not going to be a professional, that you're not going to be able to rely on him, you can cut ties before it ever gets to a point where that becomes a really bad wound that you suffer down the road when the season starts. If you give yourself a couple of months and an off-season program and OTAs and minicamp to really observe him, watch him interacting with his teammates, monitor his social media, behavior, and if you feel pretty good about, okay, it looks like he's turned the corner in the right direction, take him to training camp next year and then see where it goes from there. But I don't know. I'd be real hesitant if I was a football team without the ability to really watch him and see him interacting with my team, take any sort of chance to even bring him to training camp, let alone somewhere down the line in the season.
The latest and the best reporting on Brandon Ayuk. Vinny, always appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it, JT.
There he is, Vinny Bonsignore, California Post, on Brandon Ayuk. Now, you can listen to that conversation and you can kind of take it out of context. Is JT wondering if it's the Raiders? Would he come to the Raiders? If he didn't have mental health issues currently, he'd be the perfect quality receiver that the Raiders are looking for. I think he'd be really good. But the baggage is just too much. And I've always said, try to stay away from the baggage-type players. And there's a lot of baggage players out there, the best of them all, Tyreek Hill, full of bad baggage. But he's going to be a value to someone. And when guys are making receptions on 3rd and 11 to get you in field goal range to win a game, the fans in the upper deck don't care about the past. They care about that moment in that game where their team wins. So I'm not thinking he's coming to the Raiders at all, but he's going to come back to the league. He's a good receiver. He's gifted with his speed and route running. I've talked to people around the Niners for quite some time on how great he is as a player, and he just went off the reservation. Guys at any age in their 20s with money and have mental issues, mental anxiety, stress. The money got too big too quickly. They're hanging around with the wrong people. The story's been going on for centuries. You just don't have to be an athlete, and he needs help. He needs help badly, and the league provides that help. If you need help in the league, you can easily get it. You know, if anyone has a problem with the Raiders, with any type of dependency or issue, or needs a drive home from a restaurant, it's a phone call away, no questions asked due to the union. The league is not allowed to ask the question. You could get the help you need. And they seem to not be able to get that kid the help he needs. Very unfortunate. 30 minutes, that's the monologue, brought to you by the DeCastaverde Law Group. Alex and Orlando DeCastaverde, the brothers win. Don't believe in those crazy motorcycle, cut-off T-shirt, high testosterone attorneys or the ones that break stuff. These are two brothers that win. They run a real law group with unbelievable attorneys. If you get into an accident or injured, it's at the DeCastaverde Law Group. We open the phones at 702-365-9200.
Otra vez Messi, se desvía la pelota que cae al área. No pudo Julián Messi. ¡Gol! Argentino!
Oh, wow. Andres Cantor on the call. And the JT the Brick call that's taking over the nation coming up in a moment as I imitate Andres Cantor. And that is brought to you by Aspen Vodka, the official vodka of the Yankees and the Raiders. Wow. And they're going to have Raiderade for you on game day. Man, maybe my new favorite drink, Raiderade. Man, get your Raiderade at Allegiant Stadium. Jeff Sherman, from a gambling perspective, coming up momentarily. You don't want to miss that. So Messi has one of the greatest games, part of one of the greatest comebacks I've ever seen. I know some of you soccer heads who watch it more have seen great comebacks, but that was pretty special. All right, Ari, you know how to do it. We play the goal, and then we fade out of Cantor in the beginning, and then I take it from there as we get going. So cue it up. Let me know when it's ready. That goal we just came out of break from. Here is my version of the goal.
Otra vez Messi, se desvía la pelota que cae al área. No pudo Julián Messi. ¡Gol!
Messi, goal! Argentina, goal! Messi, viva Argentina! All right, there it is. Woo! I do that every Messi goal. I try to do that in case Mr. Cantor can't do the game. They call me in there. Yes, Rob, the blood vessels are back in my head. Messi with the unbelievable goal. I've been forcing soccer on you. I've been pleasantly surprised. I can't buy a Golden Knights phone call. I don't talk about other things in this town. UNLV football, deep dive in the offseason. I'm talking World Cup. Are there anybody who watched Messi today or want to react to the United States losing? 702-365-9200. Before we had Vinny on, I went on my rant about the United States and the soccer and all of that. Look, soccer moms are great. We're big in this country with soccer moms. Some dads go to games just to watch soccer moms and not the game, wink, wink. But the soccer moms got to get out of the way. And again, this has nothing to do with the girls. The girls are great. If you are a girl dad, I'd probably rather hear from you because your girls are playing soccer and then they're getting college scholarships and they're playing in college. And if they're pretty good, they might be able to try out for the World Cup, the women's national team. None of our players are any good that go play soccer in college. Most of them aren't very good because if they were very good at 16 years old, they'd be over in Europe. They'd be over in Europe, and they'd be developing to play on the 18 and under Liverpool team or someone like that. They wouldn't be playing, college soccer at the University of Rochester thinking they have a shot to play on the men's team. So we just got to change up what we're doing here. But I like the goalie. I like the head coach. I think Pulisic is done. If Christian Pulisic is one of your best players, then you're no good. You're no good. If Clint Dempsey is one of your great players, it might be okay. You're not going to be very good. You need guys who are great and elite and have the size and strength, can defend, go both ways. They can kick on the right and left side. They can do multiple things. We don't have that here in the United States at a high level. Billy Cancun, who watches all sports with me. We watch sports together. Billy, that was a collapse by the United States of America.
It was an epic collapse. Epic collapse, but you know what was needed? A spark. And they kind of had one, and I forgot who did it. He had a hard tackle on somebody, and you could see that they needed some aggression, some physicality to push the other, to get the team going. And it just didn't seem that they, like in hockey, you have one player or two players, three players on a team that'll get the team going by starting a fight, giving an elbow, roughing them up a little. That didn't happen yesterday. And in fact, one of the commentators even said they needed that hard tackle. And but they didn't play hard. It was just an epic collapse. 4 years from now, let's see what happens.
But let me tell you this, you would know this. We have great youth hockey players in America, just America here, that go on to play in Sault Ste. Marie, or they go somewhere, they play in northern Minnesota, they develop, then they play hockey in college at the University of Minnesota, and then they go on to play for the Olympics and win a gold medal. How come we can do that in hockey and we can't develop that type of international talent for soccer?
Great question, but you know what? I think with all, let's look at it as a whole. American football is on a decline. We've got a great influx of Hispanic, Latino families that have moved here, but it took the U.S. 40, almost 50 years to get to that point with hockey. And now I think it's going to be a faster trajectory. I heard your other guest speaking, and he said, it's all about for profit. Yeah, I think that's part of it. I mean, let's just take a look at Wimbledon right now. You got a ton of Italian players because they readjusted their Italian program for tennis players. Now Italy's a force, and they moved to being less profit and more for the country. The U.S. will do that. I think we're going to see an influx of a lot of players, just general interest from youth players. Yeah, so I think at the end of the day, JT, it's the development program, just like you mentioned with hockey, it's got to be more and more and more games being played here. And once that happens, you're going to get more Mexican players coming here.
You got it. Thank you. Billy Cancun, a hockey savant. I call him Hockey Nostradamus checking in. A good phone call there. Opens up a line for you, 702-365-9200 as we continue. Jeff Sherman, one of the best odds makers in Vegas. He's got some exciting news. He's going to join us coming up next. We'll talk to him about who's gambling and making money on soccer, how to bet against the Dodgers if that's possible, and have the lines moved since some of these big NBA contracts have been announced. We're brought to you by the M Resort Spa and Casino. 2 towers are better than one.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by Modelo Especial, the new #1 beer in the U.S.
JT back with you. We go out to Jeff Sherman, one of the most esteemed odd makers in all of Las Vegas. All right, Jeff, let's go into the World Cup. How's the handle been, the excitement, even the Messi game earlier today with an in-game opportunity? They were trailing 2-0. It looked like they were almost dead.
Yeah, it's record handle. There's no doubt about it. And the interest in these games is just tremendous. The room is packed, especially any time the U.S. or Mexico was playing. So it's unfortunate that they're not still going along. But the match this morning with Argentina down 2 goals late and got 3 within a 15-minute span. So a lot of parlay bettors are happy this morning.
Interesting there on the handle. The United States handle much larger than you expected. Are you talking more about the big international games with Messi, Holland of Norway, and especially Mbappe with France?
It's been mostly the U.S. and Mexico games, which we've seen NFL-size handle on some of these matches.
So Mexico moved the needle that big. Obviously, everybody wanted Mexico to advance against England, but that game must have been a tremendous handle and exciting game as England moved on.
Yeah, I wish I could have seen that. I was in the midst of travel, so I missed the match myself. But they said it was a tremendous crowd and great energy in the book.
So going forward here with the championship game being at New York, New Jersey Stadium, as in MetLife, is it building and building? Does it feel like this is different than any World Cup you've booked in the past?
It does. I mean, the energy just feels different, and there's more people involved with it and paying attention to it. So with it being in the States and all spread out, and like you mentioned, ending up in the New York area, it's going to continue to be record handle for all the books out there. So it'd be interesting to see if that could be matched for the next World Cup that's not played in the States.
Jeff Sherman, follow him at Golf Odds. So let's talk about NBA market odds movement from trades and free agency and what you've seen, because some big players have moved from Giannis to Miami. Kawhi's going back to Toronto. LeBron's still out there. But it looked like the Lakers did better after they moved on from LeBron. What can you tell us?
Yeah, we had some large movement on the market, and the 76ers getting Jaylen Brown and giving up Paul George pretty much went from 60-1 down to 20-1. And the largest move we've seen is with the Raptors. They were sitting around 100-1. Now they're 25 after getting Kawhi Leonard. So some nice improvements there. And the Celtics, conversely, were about 7-1. Now they're up to 14. So if anyone wants to evaluate the trade, what we've seen on Twitter, you can tell by the odds movement, not favorable for Boston there.
How about the Knicks? How are the Knicks affected here? As they know, they won the championship. They're kind of just holding court, trying to keep that team together.
Yeah, they were about 7-1 for the early part, and they've eased up to about 8-1 now, just because of the other Eastern teams having their odds reduced. So, and like you mentioned, Miami going from 50 to 25 with Giannis, they still have some pieces that they need to fill in some outside shooting there. So we'll see if they can make some more moves.
Jeff Sherman joins us, great odds maker. I want to ask you about the Dodgers, because when you were on before the start of the season, I predicted the Dodgers would win that division by 15 games. I was wrong. The Dodgers might win that by 20. I mean, they are running away with this. They're up here 14 here. It looks like the Diamondbacks are making a little bit of a charge compared to the Padres here. I mean, the Dodgers and their odds to win the World Series, where are we at?
Yeah, they keep reducing. You know, you could have found them up 5-2 before the season. Now they're plus 170, so you're not going to find 2-1 or higher out there anymore. And like you mentioned with the division odds, they were at least a $10 favorite going into the season for the division, which looks light right now.
The Yankees moved the needle a lot, but they've been swooning. They've lost 8 of their last 10. They were on a rough batch here. But the only team ahead of them is the Rays by 3 games, and then the leaders in the rest of the American League are the White Sox and the Mariners. So the Yankees got to feel like, and the odds to win the World Series or the American League are going to be okay if they can stabilize here.
Yeah, and their odds are pretty stable themselves at 5-1. The only other team in single digits behind the Dodgers. The surprise, like you mentioned, the White Sox down to 35-1 creeping in there, and Tampa at 16-1. So it's still some distance between the other teams, even though they're playing well.
All right, let's move to the Scottish Open, your expertise. I like that, the Scottish Open before the Open Championship. How many great players are playing? How many sit it out and go train and go work out over there that don't play in the Scottish Open? Handicap the field for me this weekend.
It almost looks like a major. Scottie Scheffler, 11-2 favorite, followed by McIlroy at 10, Rahm 16, Xander 18. You still have Fitzpatrick, Fleetwood, Oberg. So all the usual suspects are playing leading up to the Open Championship next week. Odds for this somewhat similar because Scheffler's 11-2 next week for the Open Championship.
So how bad has it been for Scheffler? Not financially because he's a top 3 golfer when he doesn't win, but this mini drought that he's been on really hasn't affected his future odds going forward with these tournaments because clearly people think he's the best?
Well, he's still a favorite, but his odds have been easing out. I mean, he was 5-2 to 3-1 a few months ago, and now you're finding him at over 5-1. And you're not seeing the large wagers show up on him at the short odds anymore. So we keep increasing his odds. And if he were to fall outside the top 10 this week, you'd probably find him at 6.5 to 1 next week for the Open.
Jeff, last one. This time of year is the real dead zone of sports, and I came up with that term years ago. This is when there's no NBA action. We got Summer League. Hockey's off. The NFL's on a pure vacation. No college football. We do have golf. What's it like this time of year at the sports book, knowing that this is kind of a little bit of a low, but the World Cup could be what drives us to get back to the window?
Yeah, it's been a good summer with the World Cup taking place there, but the interesting summer with the dead zone, like you mentioned, will be next year when there's no World Cup and potentially no baseball. So we'll have to see how next summer shapes out.
Take care, Jeff. Talk to you soon. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, JT.
Jeff Sherman, wow, he just dropped a bomb on this show. He just dropped a bomb. What happens if we have no baseball next summer, Ari? We don't do a lot of baseball on the show unless I'm just going after the Dodgers for having 20 less championships or 17 less than the Yankees. But Ari, did he just give us a sense of that lockout that's looming? Can you imagine no baseball next summer at all?
That's a tough one. No, I cannot.
Yeah, listen, I think the owners are telling the players, we're done. We're done with these contracts. We're really done. And we want some type of salary cap control. This is going to be a good one here, no doubt. But the World Cup, there's been a good summer for the World Cup. I'm loving it. The Colombian national anthem. Ooh, I see a lot of yellow going down in this stadium in Vancouver. That's where I saw the Rolling Stones 2 years ago yesterday. I went to Vancouver to see the Rolling Stones, where they're playing World Cup action today. Hour 2 is on deck. We're back, hour number 2, and I'm ranting on U.S. soccer. We got blown out. We got absolutely humiliated. We vomited on ourselves. We were terrible. We were a no-show. We were a no-show up in Seattle. We didn't show up for the great fans of the United States of America. They were intimidated. They were nervous. I'm not going to use the word scared because I don't play soccer at that level, nor have I ever played, so I'm very cognizant of that. But I will tell you that this team clearly was outmatched and they were intimidated. It had nothing to do with the political arm of the White House rescinding a suspended red card. It had nothing to do with that. It just got fans more fired up. But what it did is it proved that every time we think we're getting better, we're not. We're getting a little bit better, but you can debate that. If you use the term, you're only as good as your last game, we're the worst team in American World Cup history, because I don't know of a time when an American World Cup team was in a bigger chance to prove something and blank the bed as badly as that. So good luck. Now, what's interesting about sports, and especially owners in sports, when you lose or you do something poorly, you almost have to hide. Like people, there are so many more people than athletes who play professional sports. So when you go into a restaurant or a hotel lobby or an airport, so not everybody flies private. Not everybody flies private. They got to go through airports too. And everybody's kind of looking at you weird. And how do you think Christian Pulisic's going to feel the next time he wants to go to Cabo and he swims up to the bar? I'm sure some guy's going to want a selfie, but most people are going to be like, what the hell happened? Like, there is some risk to playing that poorly. Now you have to look at everybody in your peer group and be like, wow, I got 4 more years until I have to wait for games, and I don't even know what group I'm going to be in. I don't even know if I'm going to make the team. I don't know what to tell you. But this American soccer team's got a lot to be proud of overall. They were hanging out together. They were training together in Orange County. They were staying in 4-star hotels. They were traveling private. They were traveling on these luxury coaches. They were having the time of their life. They were getting free swag. They were signing autographs. They were throwing out the first pitch at games. It's over. Let me tell you, it is over. Done. And the same goes for Mexico. Stop telling me, all you Mexico fans, how good you are. You're not very good. Mexico's not very good unless Mexico's playing in their division south of the border. Okay? So, again, you don't play in a league with great teams, so you don't have a lot of great competition in Mexico until the World Cup. Even the Copa. Who's your big competition? Colombia and America? I mean, come on. So, Mexico, I would have loved to have seen Mexico advance deeper in the tournament, but I root for England. And England's a good storyline, and they're alive. Norway, England's a monster. All of Europe, Oh, my God. Do you know how many people are going to be in the pubs for England, Norway? Oh, and Spain's still alive. And Messi earlier today was absolutely incredible. So when I get going here and I talk soccer for my son, who kind of takes these reels and runs with it, I will say this for one last time. The United States of America, men, historically are not good at soccer. Our women are epic and great. They can go play youth soccer, the women, go to college, get a degree, and have a dream of winning the World Cup. If our men don't get the hell out of America and go practice over in Europe or South America or somewhere else where they play more soccer, we're never going to be that good. We need international players. We need players whose mom might have been born in London, but dad's from the United States. They grew up maybe outside of Paris, or they grew up watching PSG or Manchester City, and they love the game, and it's pumping through their veins. You cannot love soccer in America if you root for an MLS team at 8 years old. Sorry, you're not watching anything good. So it's time for our young boys to be developed by youth soccer academies in the United States that is able to identify these great young players in their teenage years and either keep them here and develop them at such a high level with international coaches, international players, former players to coach them, or we must send these young men overseas so they could get proper training. Because if not, I don't see any way we're going to be able to beat Belgium, France, Spain, Brazil, Germany on a consistent basis. We'll never be a power. Those will always be the power. Italy's a power, and they haven't even qualified for the World Cup, the last couple of them. So we're okay. We're good. But now we drop off a ledge. We drop off a cliff because we don't have enough DNA of soccer in America. We don't watch what they're giving us on Peacock. They're giving us these games on Saturday to watch on the Premier League. They're letting us watch these games with your cable package, with the apps you have, and you're choosing not to watch them. But I thank everybody who came back. They came back and they wanted to be a part of the World Cup. I had one of my best friends flew up to Seattle yesterday without a ticket. Didn't have a ticket. Went to a great sports bar, Sluggers, watched the game and flew back today. That's dedication. Tickets were like $1,300. Most people don't want to spend. How great are you if you didn't spend $1,300 on that ticket yesterday and ran up $120 wings and beer tab instead and watched that? So there's a commitment to soccer, being a fan. Most of us want it easy. We want our NFL and our college football basically handed to us on a platter where we know where it is. We have NFL games on Sunday, Monday, now Wednesday, Thursday. We have a Friday game this year, Black Friday now. We're going to have Saturday games in the playoffs. They give us as much football as we want. Don't know what to tell you about how to watch soccer going forward, because if it wasn't for the World Cup team, I don't think we'd have a lot of product to watch. This is my last soccer show on America. It's my last one. I'd like you to be a part of the last half hour. This is the last time I'll be talking about American soccer for quite some time, unless there's breaking news. Unless a coach gets fired, we get a player that's unexpected, or something crazy happens. I'm going to be talking about the World Cup and the powers of the World Cup, and I'm going to kind of be leaving the other stuff behind. So you can go in any direction you want with this, 702-365-9200 if you want to jump in. Tell us exactly what you would do if you were king for the day. If you were in charge of United States soccer, what's the one thing that you could tell me you would do to make it better? 702-365-9200. Got to have something. A lot of soccer moms and dads writing checks and going with the kids every weekend. Got any of those friends, Ari, when you want to hang out with your buddy and have them over for some pool time and Modelo's and watch the game and have a cigar, and they're like, no, we got 2 soccer games. Yeah. We got to go out to Carson City or St. George. We're playing in a soccer tournament. And I'm like, what?
As a non-parent, God. I'm envious sometimes of the excuses, but yeah.
Can you imagine when you got to drive up to St. George, Utah for a 2-day soccer tournament? God, that's got to be rough. And you know what dads do? They do it because they love their kids. They love their kids. They do it. You do anything for your kids.
I respect that. I'm not in that position, so I don't have to do it.
Yeah, but if you're in that position, you do what everybody else does.
Definitely.
You know, if I could have one redo in my entire life in sports, it wouldn't be my youth sports, what I did in college. If I could have one redo, it would be the way I watched my kids play sports. Because my kids were good, and they were really good, and they played sports. And I wasn't a sideline Saddam. I wasn't pacing the sideline yelling at the ump. But I took it very seriously. And when you get to that point with your kids, you shouldn't take it seriously. You should sit in the outfield by yourself with a bag of sunflower seeds. Maybe got a little flask with you, a couple of Modelo's poured. Don't want them to see the bottles out there in the outfield. Have a couple of beverages. Maybe sit out there with your dog and watch your kids play. But no. Every soccer dad out there thinks their kid's going to play for the U.S. men's national team, and none of them do. None of them do. But if you can get a college degree and an education, I had someone the other day talk to me about, well, look at these kids when they're 15. Most of them aren't going to play in the NFL, but now you get a chance to go play college and get some NIL money, and you might get a couple of $100,000. Why would you play soccer? I have no response to that. You're right. You're right. If you want to make money in soccer long term, you got to give up a lot as a kid. But then you could make more money than NFL players if you're great. And we just don't have an example of that in this country. All of the greatest soccer legends that have ever played have come here at the end of their career to have a cup of coffee in the MLS and get a paycheck. You know, it could be Pele, who played for the Cosmos, David Beckham with the Galaxy, Messi now playing in Miami. You know, they're just playing here to stay active and get a workout and get a sweat. That's what they want to do, but that's not the way you win a World Cup. That's not the way you win a World Cup. Colombia and Switzerland underway, no score. We are in the 10th minute of play as we continue. So we got a pretty good show coming up here the rest of the way. Coming up, Josh Alper at the bottom of the hour from Pro Football Talk. He's going to join us. We'll jump in, and then we have a soccer guest coming up next in regards to putting a bow on what happened with the United States and the World Cup. Alumni are lining up. Alumni are lining up to come on, so we'll tell you about that. Raider O from San Diego. Thanks for waiting. You're up next. Go ahead.
Hey, JT. I hope you're doing well.
Yes.
I just wanted to let you know, Raider O is your Raider Nation's soccer affiliate out here. I can answer anything you want. I've been watching every World Cup match, and I'm a Portugal fan. I'm Portuguese, but I was sad to see USA go out. I just wanted to add, I'm a coach, and that it's like football. You got to have lots of things go your way if you want to win the whole thing. You got to have a deep roster. You have to have usually at least one or two stars, which means that you were lucky enough that someone of your heritage or who lives in your country put in a lot of time throughout their whole life to go along with their athletic, power and turned into that type of player. It doesn't just happen by itself. So I think, sometimes you have countries that you might want to say, oh, they're lucky they had this player. We had Ronaldo. Argentina has Messi. Sure. But at some point, those kids saw someone on TV and said, I want to be the best. I want to be better than that at this sport, and I'm going to dedicate my life to all the technique that I need to go along with what I've been given by God. So, I really bummed for what happened to USA. But one thing that I think will be awesome in the future, kids got to see this sport. It's on Fox, most of the games. They're seeing it for free. You don't have to have cable.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you talk about NFL games getting put on streaming platforms, and we lose visibility, and sometimes you think some kids are not loving the sport like we did growing up. Mm-hmm. I think once you have that vision, you see a great moment that you will never forget, whether it be the USA's victory or a comeback like you saw earlier today. There's kids out there that it's going to drive them to become that in the future. So hopefully we at least get that. I just want to say the tournament has been great. I thought all three hosts, it has seemed like one of the most awesome tournaments. and I've been watching them since 1994.
Okay.
So
Great. Thank you, man. Appreciate you, Raider O. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate any impact we could have on some World Cup talk during the summer of 2026. That's what we're doing. That's the programming this week, along with some other news. We have an NFL insider at the bottom of the hour. Vinny Bonsignore joined us earlier. So I'll give you your football fix that you need, but the real football is World Cup soccer. Okay, that was brought to you by our great friends, and we got a lot of good friends coming back here, which we're excited about. Woodson Bourbon Whiskey. Charles built his legacy on the field and now off the field with his bourbon whiskey. His wine company is tremendous. But when we go Woodson Bourbon Whiskey, that's the whiskey you should have on Raider game day. Woodson Bourbon Whiskey, led by the great Charles Woodson. Buy it online, follow us, look at all the social media. Charles is out there every day building on his legacy. When we come back, we'll dive into soccer and we'll get an opinion of what actually happened last night from a soccer insider who will join me as we come back here. And then we'll have Josh Alper, who will jump on board, which was, he's a good guy. I haven't talked to him in a couple of weeks. We'll hear what he has to say. And we'll get over this. We'll get over this, everybody. Keith Costigan joins us from, he's great, he's with Fox Sports. Got it right here in the email. Coming up next, we'll talk to him about saying goodbye to the United States at the World Cup.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by M Resort Spa and Casino, the official hotel of the Las Vegas Raiders.
All right, welcome back, everybody. JT with you here as we continue on. Fletcher Azul Tequila is a new proud partner of our show. Have it on the rocks, have it in a margarita, have it any way you want. You'll be hearing more about our remotes, our combination remotes that we're going to be doing with them and Aspen Vodka. We got a lot going on coming up at the end of this summer. Keith Costigan, kind enough to join us. He does play-by-play at the MLS. He also does an unbelievable job on SiriusXM FC. And Keith, appreciate a few minutes after what happened to the United States. It was a brutal loss. How did you see it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a difficult night for U.S. men's national team, and I can understand some of the reaction from the fans because it's a painful defeat in a moment where we felt that a win would have given us a real opportunity to play one of the elites in Spain this Friday. But, I mean, going back to tactically in the game, I think the U.S. have been a front-foot defensive team in the World Cup so far, and what I mean by that is they press, they get forward quickly, they make it difficult for you to build out, but what we haven't seen yet is a team get beyond that initial press. And today we saw Belgium do that early and often. And what happens is after you get beyond the initial press, all of a sudden defenders look a little bit more ordinary because they're 1v1 rather than having the protection in front of them. And particularly I thought Anthony Robinson and Alex Freeman in either fullback position struggled mightily with Belgium in those areas. I thought Belgium got the ball wide quickly, got crosses in, really hurt us in that regard. And it all stemmed from really that midfield press not working. Belgium, sprung a couple of surprises in the lineup. No De Bruyne, no Doku. They went a different route, and Rudy Garcia got his tactics absolutely spot on. Sometimes you have to really hand it to the opposition, and Belgium were first class and deserved it as the win.
Keith, what did you see with the United States defenses when it came to the set pieces and the balls that were put into the box, where it looked like they just got outmanned, out-hustled there, just breakdowns where maybe the goalie should have came out a little bit more, tried to punch it out like we saw the England goaltender do at Azteca Stadium. I just thought he waited back there, and some of those headers and some of those balls right in the box were easy goals for Belgium where it didn't look like the United States was positioned properly.
Yeah, no, look, it's a fair point, and I think if you talk about how well we've defended so far by being on the front foot, everybody pushing forward, again, I'll go back to the initial point. This was the first time somebody got beyond that initial press, and what that does, it makes you second-guess yourself. So all of a sudden, you're not as confident stepping forward because you don't have that cover, you don't have that balance in defense. So I would give Belgium a lot of credit for that. I thought we were beaten in midfield, and then our defenders were saying, well, if I step, I'm going to leave space in behind. So they were second-guessing when to go forward, when to make interceptions, and Belgium just fully exploited it. I think going to the goalkeeper, Matt Fries, I think this is the first time ever going into a World Cup where the U.S. felt we weren't really solid in that goalkeeper position. You think about that position as being a position of strength for so many years for the U.S. with Casey Keller, Brad Friedel, Tim Howard. This time, Matt Freese was kind of goalkeeper by default because nobody else jumped up and won that position. And I think we saw that today. He was obviously at fault for the third goal, and I agree with you, looked a little bit tentative at other times as well. So, maybe that's something we revisit as we continue to build and hopefully rebound and get better from this. But right now, it's a tough pill to swallow.
Keith Costigan's our guest, Sirius XM FC, and with your work as a play-by-play guy for the MLS and all the other work you do, when you hear the name Christian Pulisic, and a lot of people in this country say, well, he's arguably our best player or one of our best players, he is getting rolled tonight on social media for just an absolute no-show. And the only excuse I could make, and I think it's fair, that he isn't fit. We know he's been injured. We know he's been behind. They've been trying to get him up to speed. He missed a lot of time working out with the number ones and his teammates there. What excuse should be made for Pulisic or not? Because you look at his game, he was beaten a lot tonight in the midfield, which changed the pace of the game.
Yeah, look, I will say this, heavy is the head that wears the crown. If you're going to be labeled as the biggest player, when the team loses, you're generally going to get most of the criticism. And I think he knows it comes with the territory. But I'm with you. This is not a fully fit Christian Pulisic. When he is fully fit, he delivers for the men's national team. I think you look back to that Paraguay game, that first half, which ultimately was the best we played in the tournament. That 45 minutes, he set up 2 goals. He caused mayhem. Defensively, Paraguay couldn't deal with him 1v1. Then he came off injured. And we all hoped at that time, well, it's only a precaution. It turns out it wasn't, because since then he just hasn't been himself. And today he just looked off the pace. Then he gets a knock, and after that, I really feel for him because I understand that you have to take criticism. You're paid a lot of money as elite athletes to lead your team. But ultimately, this was his goal, to be a part of a U.S. men's national team on the home stage. He's waited 8 years for this opportunity since he first broke through with the national team. And for it to end this way for him is crushing. For him to not at least be able to be at his best and then at least say, well, look, it is on me. The injuries played a part. But, yeah, the criticism, unfortunately, that's going to be a part of it because he is the leader of this U.S. men's national team.
All right, so the criticism that I'm getting is, why can't America catch up with the world? And you're well equipped to answer this, from the academies that we see overseas, the academies that feed the Premier League and La Liga and the Bundesliga and all of that. So take me to a scenario where there's a 14-year-old boy who's such an elite athlete, similar to a LeBron James or an Anthony Edwards in the NBA, that says, I want to play basketball. And the parents say, no, you can make as much money as Cristiano Ronaldo, Harry Kane, and Lionel Messi if you go big with soccer. How do we find that American youth, that young player who can stick it out, so we have a player here in the States, or 2 or 3 of them, that can compete with these international superstars?
Yeah, look, I think it's an argument we hear a lot in America, which is what if there's so many options for athletes. But it is the same in other countries. In England, you have rugby, you have cricket, you have other sports. I think it's the exposure. We've seen players decide. Alex Freeman's dad was a Super Bowl player with the Green Bay Packers, and he chose soccer. So I think the academies have done a really good job over the last 15 years. But we're talking about, when you start an academy, that's planting a seed. The next day, you don't get the results of that tree. You have to wait for it to grow and grow. And we've seen some of that with the likes of Alex Freeman, who came through at Orlando City over the last couple of years before moving to Europe. We're going to see Xavier Gozo, who's a player breaking through at Real Salt Lake, who's 18 years of age, who's been phenomenal. We are going to see more and more of that. But here's the kicker. The next step is really difficult to take at the World Cup, because England, we all talk about all the money they put in the game, everything they do to push the game. They haven't won the World Cup since 1966. They've been on the outside looking in. They only made a semi-final a couple of years ago, or in 2018, after a 28-year gap. So we will continue to get better. We did get better in this World Cup. We were, for the first time, I think, a team that took the game to the opposition rather than being a defensive-minded team who had to fight for moments. So we have taken that next step. But the next one, that is really difficult to take. It's going to be a lot. We're going to need not just Christian Pulisic. We're going to need 3 or 4 players of that level fighting it out for 1 or 2 positions, because we all know that competition breeds that intensity you want in a group or in a team scenario. So I think the U.S. have made strides, and it's not the sexy answer for everybody for me to say, look, flip the switch and it's going to be okay. But that next step at the World Cup, wow, it's really, really, really difficult to take.
Keith Costigan. One more, Keith, from me on this. I know soccer fans and I know sports fans and a lot of the bandwagon fans, not the diehards that follow you and listen to sports radio, but the ones who jumped into the sports bars and watched the games on the boat and enjoyed this summer so far. The best is yet to come. We have the greatest players in the world playing on American soil for the next couple of rounds, which is going to be brilliant. What do you say to some of the U.S. fans that are going to check out, because you know they're going to be USA fans that check out because they were only in here for the USA? I'm imploring them to stick around and watch the greatness that is upcoming.
100%, and I'm glad you said it. It is that you have to say, look, anytime you have the chance to witness history, I would call myself a casual NBA fan. I've lived in LA, but I knew when LeBron was there, I had to go see games because this is a chance to witness one of the greatest we've ever seen play the game. I was lucky enough to do the same when Kobe was around playing for the Lakers. So I think anytime you have the chance to watch greatness in the flesh, up close and personal, you have to do it. Lionel Messi is having just an incredible World Cup so far. We have he, Mbappe, and Haaland all on 7 goals. So the Golden Boot race at this World Cup is as competitive as ever. And we have so many different storylines. Spain trying to get back and regain a crown that they lost back in 2010. Can Messi make it back-to-back World Cups when most people felt that 22 was even beyond them at that age? So there is so many different storylines. The fans inside the stadium everywhere have been incredible. I mean, there's so many cities, but I'll pick out Kansas, how they took Argentina to heart and just got behind them. And it was so great watching American fans interact with Argentinian fans. It's what's great about sports worldwide. So if you get the chance in person, get to these games and witness history in the making. If you don't, definitely tune in, because it's been an incredible World Cup to this point. I'm sad the U.S. aren't there. We've got 24 hours to kind of sit and mull that over. But after that, get back to watching these games and enjoy the finale.
Thank you, Keith. Outstanding work. I'm listening a lot. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, JT. Talk to him.
Always appreciate you. Keith Costigan, nice job from SiriusXM FC. I think he implored everybody, keep watching. Watch the rest of the World Cup. Don't disappear after the United States disappeared last night, which they did. Appreciate him, and we roll right now into Josh Alper, kind enough to join us from Pro Football Talk. Josh, first off, before I get into what you do in the NFL, are you on board with the World Cup? Have you been watching it? Do you like it? Other than the United States, do you have another team, or is this kind of just getting you through the summer before training camp opens?
No, I love it. I'm the father of a 12-year-old girl soccer player who's played for 5 years now. So I'm very into soccer in general, and I've had a blast watching it. Norway would be my team right now. I think Haaland has been the most exciting player to watch in the whole tournament. Although Messi, Harry Kane, Mbappe, I think it's really just great players at the height of their abilities, and can't wait to see them all play each other. Because you brought up your daughter, and I think young girls have a chance to follow the dream of the women who won the World Cup, and by going to college and going through that route. As you're out there at these tournaments and watching these games there, do you see a lot of parents who are just out of their minds, hoping that they're going to have this soccer dream, or is everybody just kicking back and enjoying the game and letting the kids be kids? It's unfortunately, I think, a little more of the insanity and a lot of yelling at hardworking referees who are giving up time for that our kids can play. It can get ugly. I have an older son who played basketball. That got ugly too, and it is unfortunately part of the program. And if we could eliminate that, I couldn't think of anything better. Let's move to the NFL, and any update for you on what's going on with Brandon Ayuk, a really gifted player, but a guy who looks to have a lot of emotional problems at this time. Do you see a path for him to get back into the league? Well, there is a very clear path for him to get into the league, which is to show up to this first day of 49ers training camp and say he wants to play and force the 49ers' hand. What he said today in his latest post is that he won't do that. He wants to play. He says he wants to play. He says he wants to play for the Commanders. He's been pretty clear.
All right. Did we lose him? I think we lost him. Okay. Ari's trying to get him back here. Let me just see if we can do that. Okay. So you were talking about the path to come back. So showing up would be the first move.
That would be the obvious one because it forces the issue to the 49ers to say, release him or then they have to keep him and then they would have to be under some financial pressure to pay him. That's not something that's the case as long as he stays away. So if Ayuk isn't going to do that, I don't see where a trade is going to happen at this point because why would the 49ers do that unless they're making out like bandits? And I don't see why any team would trade like that.
Well, what's the update? I saw you wrote about the Buccaneers. No rush to work out deals, especially with Baker Mayfield. Typically when a quarterback has the ability for an extension or a deal, and I think Baker's been a pretty good part of that group since Tom Brady left. How does this play out for Baker Mayfield long term? Does he still have to prove more?
Yeah, I don't know what else he would need to prove. I think right now it's a question of numbers, and it's a question of Baker Mayfield probably seeing himself higher on the list of NFL quarterbacks than the Buccaneers do from a compensation standpoint. I would think that it's more likely than not they come up with some deal right around the start of camp. I think the idea of it not being a rush is posturing. But these, deadlines make deals. And if he's not going to talk to them after the start of training camp, I would think that they're going to want to get something done. Otherwise, that really makes this an all-in kind of a season for the Bucs. And that wasn't really how they treated the offseason in terms of how they're building for this coming season. So I would think it's likely to happen, maybe a little less likely with Vita Vea, just to see how he holds up. He's getting older. He's a big guy. The aging cycle can be rough on those players. But I would think that Mayfield, even if it's a short term, something like that gets him signed for a couple more years with an out, that the Bucs can move in a different direction if they decide to blow things up.
Josh Alper joins us, Pro Football Talk. I read your column about John Harbaugh and Cam Scatterbo. My kid went to ASU when Scatterbo was there. I watched him play a lot. He got injured, but he was pretty productive last year in just a few games, 7 touchdowns in 8 games. I don't know what's going to happen with him. I know he's having a lot of fun on social media with Dart. They're showing up everywhere whenever they get invited. And John Harbaugh is saying the right thing, but do you think Scatterbo has the ability to be a featured back in this league or more of a battering ram around the goal line and a number 2 back behind a featured back?
I thought he was more going to be in that sort of, battering ram, goal line back kind of a role. He showed me more than I expected last season before he got hurt. But the injury is for him and for Dart. That's the big question for the Giants. And I think that for Scatterbo, that they're lucky they have Tyrone Tracy there. He's had over 1,000 yards each of the last 2 seasons, total yards, rushing and receiving. So they don't have to use him like Derrick Henry to look at Harbaugh's former team. But I think that they really do see him as someone who has such a unique set of skills, especially with a quarterback who can run like Dart, that you keep defenses guessing in a way that is very appealing to an offensive coordinator, especially one like Greg Roman that has so much experience with rushing quarterbacks.
It looks to me like Arizona's playing for a quarterback next year, but when you get a new coach, the new coach wants to win. He doesn't want to tank. If you can't win more than 2 or 3 games your first year, you're on the hot seat going into your second year. Carson Beck has a chance to be the guy. What are you hearing about the Cardinals and what they want to do at quarterback to at least stay competitive if they're going to get into the quarterback market next year?
Yeah, it's a hard one to figure out because of the Jacoby Brissett contract situation where he's looking for a deal that reflects the fact that he's probably going to be the opening day starter. And they didn't feel any great urgency to have him in there learning Mike LaFleur's offense and working with everyone this offseason because they didn't rush to get something done. They've said that everything's fine and they're moving ahead with that. But it wouldn't surprise me if part of that was to give Carson Beck as much work as he possibly could get, because even if you are going to win, 4 or 5 games, and I don't think anybody is thinking the Cardinals in that NFC West are looking like a good bet to make the playoffs or have a winning record or anything like that. It behooves you to see what the rookie quarterback can do, because then you can go into the draft next year knowing exactly what it is that you need. So I would be surprised if Carson Beck is not starting somewhere around halfway through the season, whatever happens with Brissett, because I just think it's the smartest thing for LaFleur and for the Cardinals to do to start solidifying their future, especially if Jeremiah Love, makes a quick transition to the NFL and is the offensive workhorse that they picked him to be.
Josh Alper, as we wrap it up here. Josh, I'm out here with the Raiders, as you know, and you've covered Kirk Cousins' career. He only keeps that job with the Raiders if he wins. If he doesn't get off to a good start, 2 of the first 3 games, the Raiders play the Dolphins and the Saints. What do you think the path is going to be for Cousins to hold on to that job, knowing that Raider Nation wants to see Mendoza as soon as possible?
I think you nailed it. If they're winning games and there's a chance to really, slow play Mendoza's transition into the NFL, but behind a winning quarterback and just a chance to soak up those kinds of habits, I think that would be an ideal situation for the rookie. But you lose opening day, you lose, you're 1-3. It becomes very hard not to pull the trigger and do that. So I think for Cousins, it's really saying, you have some familiarity with this offensive style, this offensive system. How can they position it to be in that best position possible? Because even if he's playing well, if the defense isn't any good, it's not going to help his chances of staying in there. He can't do anything about that. But I think that he has a head coach in Kubiak that is going to put him in a position to succeed. He just needs to really cut loose and some of the more cautious Kirk Cousins that we've seen over the years, it can't be that one. It's got to be the gunslinger, and he's going to have to win games like that. And the longer he does that, he's winning. But much like Beck in Arizona, Mendoza is going to be there before the season's out. I'm almost certain.
Last one from me. You had a nice column about Brendan Sorsby and his focus and recovery. What do you think the NFL learned from this? Not having a supplemental draft for one player who clearly the league wants quarterbacks. He probably would have went for a second-round pick, a third the latest. And the fact that the NFL put the kibosh on this deal and said no. What clues did the NFL give us to what they think about gambling issues with college athletes before they come to the NFL?
Well, that I think that, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, or backwards. I got that backwards. But I think that they've had enough of these guys come in. We had it with Jamison Williams with the Lions. There have been some others, Keyshawn Boutte on the Patriots, where they've come in with these issues and have carried them into the NFL. And that's the tissue that you have to break right away. You have to make it very clear to players that none of this, you can't gamble on your team, you can't gamble on other teams, you can't gamble on football. And it has to be a clear red line that they have to, that they've established here. Now, this is a very specific case, and there was a fight to be had in courtrooms with the union about that. But I think it's much more telling that the NFLPA had absolutely no interest in wading into this, because they don't want to be seen as on the side of players escaping punishment perhaps by coming to the NFL. And that's what the supplemental draft used to really pertain to. It was players who were ineligible for academics or had gotten in some sort of legal trouble. And the NFL had always looked the other way on those things. To not look the other way on gambling, it's a very clear sign of how clean it has to look, because of how in bed the NFL has gotten with these gambling companies, that any sense that there's things bleeding over and it becomes very hard to keep your credibility as a league.
Absolutely. Josh, enjoy the rest of the summer. We'll talk to you as the season gets ramped up. Always appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Josh Alper from Pro Football Talk. There you go, getting your football talk in here. The gambling issue's huge. That was a big story this summer. If you look at the summer of the World Cup, the summer of NBA free agency, the biggest story in college football was Brendan Sorsby. It wasn't the recruiting class of Notre Dame or UNLV's road schedule. It was Brendan Sorsby not being allowed to play because he had a massive gambling problem. Not saying he still does, but when people say they're recovered that quickly, I don't believe it. We got to see this kid in full recovery and hope he has the best recovery in life. Wow, we're cruising along today. Ari's here for Clay. Always appreciate that. Q is coming up next, and we'll tell you what the word of the day is going to be coming up next. Ari, come on, get that in here.
I'll have it ready.
You will have that ready to go. And then 4 hours tonight on Mad Dog Sports Radio, the first official night of the Dead Zone. Without USA Soccer, maybe I can beat up USA Soccer for 4 more hours and get to my weekend.
That is a hard thing to trade a guy that you, first of all, care so much about, but secondly, have so much respect and admiration for, to a team that just beat you in the playoffs and that you're going to literally play 6 times before the playoffs next year. But I do think that ultimately when you do a deal, you have to be thinking about you first and the optionality it creates for you.
All right, that is Brad Stevens, president of basketball operations for the Celtics. Oh, boy, he had to go to the Boston media, and that's not easy media. That's real media. We got good media here in town, too. Not as esteemed as Boston, okay, where Bob Ryan's been covering the Celtics for 50 years, okay? And he basically went there and said, I moved them, and I'm going to have to own it. Well, good luck, because the Celtics are not going to be an elite team next year without Jaylen Brown. Problem I have with the NBA today is the money that's being paid. And we saw a contract today which might have took the cake in my lifetime. As a little boy, I grew up watching the NBA. I watched it like you did. If you were old enough to remember Bird and Magic and those great years, Kobe Bryant and Shaq, and no matter where you were watching, you always watching the NBA. But now we're getting to the point where Donovan Mitchell is seriously going to make $75 million in the 4th year of this current deal. He signed a max deal for $273 million over 4 years. If he got $270 over 10 years, I'd be like, wait a second. That's $27 a year? Okay, that's a lot. 10 years, but it's 10 years. This is over 4 years. How is the new owner of the NBA team in Las Vegas going to afford to pay for the Vegas expansion, build the arena, and that always happens with a little bit of corporate help. But when you see NBA players today, like Donovan Mitchell, and I just mentioned the Celtics, when you see NBA players making $274 million over 4 years, not 10, 10's a lot. What are we doing? What would we be paying Scottie Pippen compared to Donovan Mitchell? Scottie Pippen didn't play during black and white TV. Scottie Pippen played with Michael Jordan. He was a 6-time champion. So if Scottie Pippen played today and Donovan Mitchell with no rings, a 7-time All-Star with no championships, is getting a max deal at $274, what are you giving Pippen? $350? Well, Scottie Pippen would only need 1 4-year contract of $350 million for generational wealth. Scottie Pippen didn't make a lot of money with Jordan. All the money he made, all of it's gone from divorces to that Lara Pippen, his whacked-out wife, and his kids, and alimony and all that. None. He's got no money left. Scottie Pippen has limited dollars left. And Scottie Pippen's got to wake up today and read on his phone that Donovan Mitchell's getting $274. My point is this. I don't want to take any money out of anyone's pocket, nor do I want anybody to take money from me. I do this job for money. I love sports. I've done sports, but I treat it like a business. Every day, this is a business to me first. It's not a hobby. And a lot of people are getting into radio as a hobby, and they hope to make money. Don't work that way. It never worked that way. And you can see the kingpins of radio now and how much they're making. Okay, so there's a way to run your business. But the NBA is out of their minds to pay guys like Donovan Mitchell his fourth year of this 4-year extension, he gets $75 million for a season. That's what a quarterback's going to be making. What is Josh Allen going to make on his next extension? He probably should make more than Donovan Mitchell, but NFL quarterbacks make about $50, $55 million. Now we're going to get to 60, and the NFL is going to probably go to 70. That's less than Donovan Mitchell. Now you might say, well, he plays more games. Oh, be quiet. He's not a quarterback in the NFL. So we're getting to a point now. We're all getting to a point as sports fans. We're just numb to it. I'm numb. Whenever I go to a sporting event and I see the prices, I'm numb to it. How much is it going to cost? Okay, $1,000 a ticket, $400 a ticket, $275, parking, food, concessions. It's at a point now where I don't know how families afford to do it. You know, my kids are 25 and 23, so let's go back 20 years. 20 years I took my kids to Dodger Stadium. We lived in L.A. I remember my wife and I parking. I don't remember what the parking was. It wasn't nuts. It wasn't 75 or 100. It was probably $40 to park. Then we'd go to the game and we'd get decent tickets. I don't know, those tickets were like $40 a ticket or $50. We'd get some food and dogs and ice cream for the kids. We'd drop maybe another $50 to $100. It was expensive. Now, you go to a Dodger game and you play close to $100 to park or $75, and then you got to pay well over $200 a ticket. Yeah, I got buddies who have season tickets. They're $240 face. Okay, 4. It's $1,000 to go to the game if you want good tickets. And then the food, because of show high and what they're serving there, out of control. And families find a way to do it. They come up with the money. Eventually, families are going to say, no, I don't have the money. Look at the economy. Look what people are going through in life. Look at how hard it is. People have multiple jobs. You think people are going to pay that amount of money? That's one of the cool things about Vegas now. We have indoor lacrosse, right? We have indoor football. We have Aviators baseball. UNLV is a really cheap ticket for the quality of good football that you get at Allegiant Stadium. Raiders are expensive. Golden Knights are expensive. And the NBA is going to be through the roof when they get here. And people will line up and pay. They'll line up and pay. Because more and more wealthy people now are moving to Las Vegas. They're leaving California. They're leaving the East Coast, the high tax burden states. They're coming here. They're getting homes that are starting to catch up and get more expensive, but they're getting a deal. And what they're saving on state taxes, they're able to use for more expendable income on sports. But raise your hand and beep your horn if you know a lot of people in Vegas that can afford season tickets to every team. Oh, yeah, they live in Southern Highlands and the Ridges and at the Summit. But there's a lot of people that live in the Valley that don't have that money. And we have to have entertainment options for them. And I think we do. We have a lot of good entertainment options here in Vegas. Bunch of different price points, Ari. You hear what I mean by that? Price points. Where you can go to a bunch of different entertainment options for different prices.
Absolutely. It is awesome. Super quick, not to cut you off, but today's word is energize. ENERGIZE for a trip to New York City. Shout out to Terribles.
Thank you for getting energized.
Snuck in
My
there.
bad. Thank you.
No, you're good. Pleasure to be
I'm
here.
getting better. Thank you on that.
Excellent.
Q's coming up next. He's got a great show coming up. He just received a great award, which you should all be complimenting him on and congratulating him. And I got a 4-hour show tonight. I'm sure Q's got a long show tonight after his. But we're lucky to talk sports. Good soccer game at the half between Switzerland and Colombia. No score. And the Messi game was one of the greatest halves I've ever seen in my life as a soccer fan. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks to Vinny Bonsignore, Josh Alper, who joined us. Good, busy day today. Hope you enjoyed it.